So, I've never watched the original Teen Titans. I know. The original Teen Titans, which ran on Cartoon Network from 2003 to 2006, is one of my generation's most beloved cartoons, and one that I, unfortunately, missed out on. I mentioned previously that I was never a Cartoon Network kid, and even when I did start watching the network, it was only ever Powerpuff Girls and Gumball for the longest time. Oh, and also Teen Titans Go. I know. But for years I've wondered what all the fuss was about, and so I finally decided to check the series out for myself, especially since Teen Titans Go has had a strange resurgence in the past year or two. Now, I actually did try to get into the series when I was a teen when an ex-friend recommended it to me, but unfortunately I got bored and never got past episode 1, Final Exam. But I really wanted to give the show another chance. I hardly ever watch superhero media, barring a few exceptions, so prior to this, my only exposure to these characters is from their more controversial parody show. I know next to nothing about the DC universe. In fact, I'm more familiar with Marvel, if anything. Now, if the results of my YouTube poll are to be believed, then most of you grew up with the original show, so to prevent this video from getting too long and winded, I'm gonna briefly go over some things that stood out to me with the expectation that you've already watched the show. And if you haven't watched the show, just know I will be throwing around spoilers very casually. But before we get into this, I'd like to mention that I'm working towards monetization, so please feel free to check out my other videos. I also have a Ko-Fi, so if you'd like to leave a tip, I'd greatly appreciate it. We did not start off strong with season 1 because originally I thought it was an odd choice to have our first impression of these characters badly fumbling at crime fighting because it's not exactly entertaining, but I figured it was to showcase Robin as a leader and a crime fighter and tell us right away that his team heavily relies on him. But then, after I was finished the show, 75% of the way through this script, I found out that the actual first episode of this show is Divide and Conquer, which upon rewatch makes a lot more sense as an introduction to the show. But anyway, I walked away from this episode, Final Exam, thinking, wow, Robin has so much aura, and that's pretty much the impression I maintained for the entire season. I totally get why people are constantly glazing him online. I am a huge sucker for slightly disgruntled red characters, so I quickly took a liking to Robin with Starfire just behind him. Of course, I love how friendly and joyful she is, and I love characters with overly polite and formal speech. Their dynamic is unbearably adorable. I was not expecting to ship them, but I do. Friends to Lovers is so underrated, and Starfire's joy and whimsy plays off his more serious and workaholic tendencies, and it works because he genuinely adores her, even if he's emotionally closed off. But worry not, this is not just about Robstar, because I love all of the Titans. I feel so maternal towards them. Since I'm so used to the way that the characters are portrayed in Go, it took me a second to get used to their new, or rather old personalities, but I really like them. Raven isn't too dissimilar to her 2014 counterpart, aside from the fact that in Go, she's super OP. But I like that she has to stay calm and stoic at all times in order to keep her powers in check. I relate to her a lot in being misunderstood just because her tastes are a little unconventional, and she's not exactly the most approachable. I was also surprised that Cyborg and Beast Boy aren't as similar as they are in the new show. Beast Boy is still deeply unserious and a bit of a jokester, though he does know when to reel it back in, and Cyborg, instead of being loud and excitable, is very autonomous and struggles a lot with his human and robot identity. I really like his dynamic with Starfire. Their heart-to-heart when she told them that she's always known him as half-robot, so to her he is normal, was really sweet. I think the episodes this season that stood out the most to me were Switched. I really like Raven and Starfire's dynamic. I love the way that their personalities bounce off of each other and them having to learn and understand each other in order to use the other's powers. I think that was a really cool setup for an episode. The other episode that stood out to me was Masks, of course, which is the episode where Robin dresses up as Red X and collects some chips in order to get on Slade's good side, which ultimately doesn't end up working. I'm going to talk about Slade a little bit in a minute, but something that stood out to me in this episode was at the very end when Starfire comes into Robin's room after they found out that he was Red X all along, and he asks her if she's going to yell at him, because everyone else did too. And I like this moment because I like how even though Robin is the leader, he's not above them in their actual friendship dynamic. But moving on to season 2, Terra's arc was probably my favorite in the series, big step up from the arc with Robin. Based on Teen Titans Go, I honestly had way different expectations for Terra. Like, I didn't realize that she would be joining the team, but I enjoyed it a lot. It sucks that she ended up betraying the Titans, especially Beast Boy. Now moving on to standout episodes, I was not expecting to like the Larry episode as much as I did. Like, when I started the episode I was kind of rolling my eyes, but I ended up enjoying it quite a lot. I like that this show doesn't take itself too seriously and allows itself to slow down and have the characters goof off or or develop a little. I will never forgive the demonization of filler episodes. This was actually the very first episode that I rewatched after having finished the show. Another standout episode was, of course, Date with Destiny. I love superhero shows that have unconventional episodes that can only be achieved with the show's unique premise. Child Fearing from the Powerpuff Girls is one of my favorite episodes from that show for this reason. This whole show has been really funny, far more than I was expecting, but this episode in particular had me fried. Star's jealousy, Kitten's brattiness, Robin's attitude.
This prom is some manner of duel, yes? Robin eagerly accepts.
Now, Slade has been the main villain for 2 seasons now, and the way he so calmly and coldly gets into both Terra and Robin's heads is terrifying. With Robin, he uses his desire to keep his team safe against him, but with Terra, he uses her uncertainty of herself to convince her to join him. It's such a shame that, unlike with Robin, Terra realized too late that her friends mean a lot to her. But when Beast Boy placed that plaque on her statue at the end of this finale, I won't lie, I burst into tears. Alright, it's season 3, and at this point I am fully hooked on the show. I don't actually have much to say on this season. None of the episodes particularly stuck out to me all that much, except for episode 3, Betrothed. I'm always sad for a Starfire episode. I'm beyond upset that she didn't get her own dedicated season like everyone else. Like, I wanted more episodes on her backstory and her relationship with Blackfire. That was actually one of the things I was most interested in going into the series, but we don't get that much on her, and that's a shame. The other standout episode was episode 5, Haunted. I'd heard of this episode, but my god was it brutal. The way that Slade is able to get to Robin psychologically is chilling. Like, I know that Robin had inhaled some neurotoxins, but the way he had this child running in circles for ages while he was technically dead as far as the audience was concerned is so scary. I also love the foreshadowing of Raven entering his mind, considering her arc with Slade next season. Ignore the fireworks, it's the 4th of July.
What are those? White blood cells! Cyborg's human immune system thinks we're the virus! Run!
So those are pretty clearly red blood cells. They're not even white. Who does this show think it's fooling? I did like that Brother Blood was the main baddie for this season, since we got Slade as the main bad guy twice, but this was the weakest arc for me, unfortunately. Not that I disliked it or thought it was bad, but seasons 2 and 4's arc stuck out to me more. Even still, I love how Blood was absolutely fixated on trying to figure out which program makes Cyborg so stubborn and independent, only to find that it isn't the robot side of him at all. That's just who he is as a person. At this point in the series, I adore the Titans and the relationships. This show puts a real emphasis on the fact that these guys aren't just a superhero team, they're also genuinely best friends, which stuck out to me because even though it's a kid's show, they didn't necessarily have to do that. It's not like the show is trying to instill the magic of friendship in children. They could have had them all be so protective of each other because it's the right thing to do. But the Titans are all fiercely loyal to each other, and they frequently talk about how important they are to each other. And I think that makes this finale in particular much stronger. These characters are of course driven by their desire to save the world from Trigon, but they're mainly motivated by their love for Raven, with Robin quite literally going to hell and back for her. This season had what I think was my favorite finale. I was a little anxious since it was 3 parts, but no, it was wonderfully paced. I feel like Robin mentioned hope more in this episode than Katara did in the entirety of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Although I think Teen Titans Go kind of spoiled this arc for me, I don't think I was supposed to know what Raven's whole deal with Trigon was until towards the end of the season, so for a while there I was just wondering why the pacing was so slow. Turns out it wasn't the pacing, I just knew too much. Also, normally I hate it when supervillains treat the people who help them like shit, but I didn't mind it with Slade, because first of all, he had my goat Robin fighting demons, but also, Trigon is literally the devil from the Bible. Why would he be loyal to you?
There are those on other planets who feel Tamaranians are inferior. Troc is what they call us. You know what it feels like to be judged simply because of how you look?
Of course I do. I'm part robot.
I should probably also give my take on the episode Troc while I'm at it. I gotta admit, having seen the clip of Cyborg and Starfire many times, I kinda rolled my eyes at the whole, of course I face discrimination, I'm half robot. Like, why are y'all playing in my face? But I actually quite like the way that this episode was done. I like how Val is very sneaky with his racism against Starfire, and the heart-to-heart between her and Cyborg was truly sweet. I decided to let the half-robot thing slide since Cyborg does have insecurities in regard to his robot half. Besides, it's a fictional world. Maybe racism doesn't exist in Jump City. Maybe these are all valiant citizens. I also like how Val refuses help from Starfire at the end. Like, racist people would rather suffer than accept help from those they deem less than. He doesn't even end up changing his views at the end. He'd rather just sit in his cognitive dissonance, which is why Starfire concludes that it's best to just focus on the people that love her. I think for an episode of a children's cartoon written in the early 2000s, that's a pretty good conclusion to draw. Now, I was dreading the start of this season because I knew there'd be a cliffhanger, and I get really sad when things end, but alas, I have to finish the video, so we're diving in.
There. Now maybe we can be...
If you wish not to be destroyed, you will leave me alone!
The placement and length of the origin story episode was a bit strange to me. I personally would have had it earlier in the show, like season 3, and I think it should have been a TV movie. Unfortunately, it felt super rushed, almost like they expect me to have all of the context for these characters, which I don't really. I mean, I kinda do, but I also kinda don't. I'm assuming there's a behind-the-scenes reason they chose to do it this way, so I'm not gonna harp on it too much. Another standout episode to me is the episode where Raven is babysitting those 3 superhero kids. It's one of the filler episodes, but I loved it. Now, given the fact that I hate change and the season 4 finale was so peak, I was a little wary of this season's focus on other heroes. I tend to latch on to main characters pretty hard, but no, I enjoyed the episodes with the honorary titans. I absolutely love the full circle moment in the finale when the Titans all lead the honorary Titans to fight the Brotherhood of Evil without Robin. Like, they've grown so much as heroes from the first season, and while of course I would have welcomed a season 6, I actually don't have very many qualms with this ending. A lot of people talk about how the show had ended on a cliffhanger, and so I assumed that that meant that the show abruptly got cut off, but I see this ending as being more open-ended, and I understand that that's frustrating, but I think that works fine for this show. I do understand why people may have expected more from the show, especially since Starfire didn't get her own dedicated season, and I don't think that a couple more seasons would have hurt, but unfortunately, that's just not how the cookie crumbles. Now, I've yet to watch Trouble in Tokyo, but I will eventually, especially because I hear it's focused on Robin and Starfire. But I wanted to get this video finished, and I will let you know how that goes, but for now, thank you guys so much for watching. This was super fun. There's a couple of reasons why I chose to check this show out, but I did not expect to enjoy it as much as I did. Like, this legitimately might be a top 5 show for me. I did not have very many problems with this show at all. Like even the dud episodes were not really all that bad, just a little boring, that's all. I've been living under a rock my entire life, so there are a handful of shows that I could do this kind of video with, so let me know if you guys like this video. I could make this into a mini-series. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Tell me if you watched the original show, let me know your favorite episodes, what you thought about the ending, and if you guys like what I do, please tip me on Ko-Fi if you got some extra cash to spare. If not, that's okay, just watching my other videos would really help me out too. Social medias are down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.